Hello everyone, and welcome to the podcast series ILEXEC, dedicated to intralogistics executives. I am Mester Sándornak, the marketing communications lead at Advanced Robotics. Today we have a very special guest with us. I am delighted to welcome John Sauer, the Senior Director of Global Business Development at OPEX, a market leader in warehouse automation. John has been with OPEX for almost 28 years, starting his career as an assembler and rising to the top management. Thank you for joining us today, John. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me. It's been a long week with some travel issues, but yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Is this the first time when you are in Hungary?
This is actually my second time. I visited these offices about 18 months ago at the beginning of the project that we're currently working on the installation for.
And you are just back from a visit to a customer. How did it go?
I was very, very impressed. It was an older facility with a lot of existing technology in the building and a lot of people working around the area where the new installation went in. So whenever you can see a brownfield installation not disrupt current operations, it's really impressive. It was like ant workers, just people everywhere, not only working on the installation that we're doing together, but also fulfilling orders. And then I got the opportunity to tour their next phase of growth in a building that they're starting a rehabilitation project on. The future looks bright for that company as well. So that's really exciting to see.
Are you satisfied with the visit?
Very much so. Very much so. The most impressive part of what I observed was the space in which our system has been installed at this point. There was no room left over. They maximized the use of this. Every square inch, every square centimeter, I should say, on this one is being used and being productive. It was really amazing to see.
Is the client optimistic about the future of this system?
They are very optimistic about the future of this system. This is phase one of a multi-phase project, and phase two has been greenlighted. I think they see the value that our companies have brought them with this robotic automation we're installing.
Once again, thank you for your coming, because you are the one who could be the best to talk about global trends in robotics and automation within the intralogistics sector.
My specialty in intralogistics is really at the each picking level, maybe case picking level. I have knowledge on pallet management and pallet handling. My expertise is really in less than pallet automation. And one of the trends that I've been seeing recently, I kind of put the companies in my market into two different groups. There's robotics that have become commoditized and mass produced, and multiple companies can put their name on that robot and create some really tricky software. And then there's groups that are still pushing the envelope and innovating with new solutions and trying to advance the technology even further. When I was a kid, a robot was a humanoid type, and it was kind of a gimmick. Robots come in all shapes and sizes. Most companies have some type of robotic solution, or they're looking at some type of robotic solution. I see there's two different groups. Again, there's innovative companies that are pushing the envelope, and then there's folks that are taking what's already been invented and coming up with solutions that include those robots. And I think they're very distinct groups in that the way they go to market, the way they support their customers, and the relationships they're looking for long-term with their clients.
This segment is exploding, and this is why there's a kind of turmoil around this industry. Most of the people don't know where to go.
Sure. And that's why it's great to have subject matter experts in your area, local to you, that understand the local culture of business. For instance, our engagement with Advanced Robotics has been very, very great from the beginning. We learned how each other work. We learned what the value each of us would bring to a particular project. And it's been really good for OPEX to rely on Advanced Robotics in this territory because it's their market. They understand the market, they understand the culture, and they can serve the customer as being a local entity as opposed to OPEX who isn't. I think innovation is going to continue to drive the future of warehouse automation. You have to have a very friendly product for automation, but as diversity of product grows in a particular market segment, automation will continue to drive towards that lights out warehouse. Those folks that are currently picking or packing or doing those things, as those jobs become automated jobs, there's obviously new roles that are required for logistics in repair, in technology, in software development. The most mundane tasks, the most laborious tasks are the first that we look to automate. As we trend towards getting into more detailed tasks and automating those, obviously that frees up people to do different things for their company.
So the innovation is unstoppable.
Unless you pull the plug and you lose power. If you visit any of the major trade shows like Logimat for us over here in Europe and in the US, we do a ProMat, ModeX shows. The innovation is just, it continues. Every year, we as a design engineering company, as well as a manufacturer, we look at those shows as targets to show our next new product. So if you visited us this year at Logimat, we brought our next generation sortation system called SureSort X, which improved upon the legacy SureSort system by increasing the length, width, height, and weight of what could be sorted. And additionally, we solved another problem that we've historically had was in our sortation systems, once an order is complete and the bin is the order, all the components for that order are in that bin, a human had to come and pull that bin off the wall and then replace it with a new bin. So we introduced a product we call Extract that interfaces with SureSort X that eliminates the need for that human interaction to remove completed orders from the wall and replace the bin. So those incremental steps towards making the system more productive for our customers is really what we're driving at.
If we are talking about the robots and the automation in intralogistics, we have to start to speak about OPEX as one of the market leaders in this segment. How does OPEX differentiate itself?
One of our biggest assets is that we design, manufacture, and service our own equipment in most territories. So we control our own destiny, basically. So that allows us flexibility to do some custom projects. We make our own racking. We design our solutions from the ground up. But we also play really well with others. So we also understand that most of the time, our solution isn't the only piece of the puzzle. There's a lot of other components adjacent to our technology that makes our technology successful and ultimately makes the customer's business successful. We have a great group of engineers that have the expertise to do process flow, design flow, and conveyor layouts and all those things, which we can provide to some of our clients, but we also can support partners, their quest to integrate our solutions. Our systems from a software perspective are very flexible. For instance, OPEX has a solution that drives user interface and can manage inventory within the system and guide the picking process. And we also support our partners that may supply that inventory control component or that interface. So the client we've visited today uses OPEX's hardware solution, the Perfect Pick system, but they've integrated that to their own software platform that gives them consistency across all the various pick faces in their facility. I can take an employee from one area that's used to working with one type of picking technology, drop them in front of a Perfect Pick, and the user interface is the same, the controls look the same, they feel the same, and they're immediately productive. I think what attracted the customer to our solution, and this was mentioned on the tour today, is it's the fastest goods-to-person picking station available on the market. And when you go one step further, if you look at the space that it fit in, it's hands down the best solution for that physical space.
You sold it to me. I would like you to summarize all the strengths that helped OPEX maintain its leadership position. So what are these strengths on the strategic level?
As you mentioned, I've been with the company almost 28 years. We're celebrating our 50th anniversary next year as an organization.
Not a startup, yeah?
We are not a startup. We're actually under our third generation. Leadership is actually transitioning in. Second generation is still part of the business, but third generation is taken over. I tell this story. Our roots are grounded in processing checks, processing payments. Other than cash, it's the second most valuable thing out there.
It's a very U.S. payment method.
Correct. We've done a lot of work in Europe as well with payment processing. So historically, OPEX's equipment was the lifeblood of the customer's operation. If my business is processing payments at the volumes at which our equipment could support, it's a huge part of their business. To make that daily deposit at the end of the day of $20, $30, $40 million, sometimes the case, it became critical that our systems would function and be able to allow that customer to make their deposit at the end of the day. So when we approached the warehouse automation market back in 2010, we started looking at going down this path. We took the same approach. Our system is the lifeblood of a customer's operation. The customer needs to get their customers' parts on the truck, on the delivery van, whatever the case is. Everybody's relying downstream on our system performing for whatever it is. It could be medicines. It could be supplying hospitals. It could be auto parts, keeping people's cars running and getting them to work. It's all these things. And we understand the criticality of them being able to produce their work and get the work done at the end of the day. So when we design our solutions, inherently we try and remove single points of failure. In our solutions, we have these autonomous robotic vehicles that are baked in redundancy. If the moving component, the iBot, the robot, should fail, we can quickly remove it from any of our systems and continue running with the iBots that are left in the system, making them very productive, increasing IO availability or system availability, but most importantly, ensuring that the customer can conduct business and get their work out the door.
AutoStore, as I know, is one of your strongest rivals. Is it easy to compete with?
It's fun to compete with them. It's a great company. They have a good product. Their market strategy is a little bit different than ours, particularly in places where we have a service footprint. Comparatively, from a cubic volume of storage standpoint, a lot of people look at AutoStore and say, well, how do you get denser than tote on top of tote next to tote? It's cubic storage. There's something to be said about that. If you were to compare our Perfect Pick solution, the HD solution, where we store totes double deep, with the vertical height in which we can go, or step forward to our latest generation of goods-to-person technology, the Infinity system, we are oftentimes denser storage than an AutoStore system. So that's typically the first hurdle to get over with customers is that. The second one, the speed at the picking port. So storage and throughput in a goods-to-person system, they're the two key components that customers are looking for in payback. We can go head-to-head with them on storage density and throughput as well. So one of the unique things about our solutions is we don't necessarily need to have a plan of the next 30 minutes, hour, 2 hours, 5 hours to bring the work to the top of the grid. In our solutions, almost every tote is already at the top of the grid. So our queue of work is much smaller. So what does that mean? If you have a very consistent business and you understand, you have your orders well ahead of time and you have a straight 80-20 Pareto on your velocities, AutoStore looks pretty good in those situations. If I'm a pure play e-commerce company where I want to react, my only engagement with my customers, they go online, they place an order, and the next interaction they have is, here's your order, everything's been picked and back ordered, or nothing's back ordered, and then here's your shipping confirmation. The faster they happen after that payment's made, the more pleasurable that experience is for the client. Our very first Perfect Pick system, which is going back 12 years or so at this point, the customer wanted to be able to react to their customer's order online, have it pick, packed, and on the dock within 15 minutes. And by nature of how our systems behave, that was possible. When we first started touring that facility, it was fun. The operations manager would go online. He said, I'm going to place an order, and I'm going to place a multi-line order, and we'll start the tour. And during the course of the tour, within the first 15 to 20 minutes, he would say, I just got my email that my box is packed and on the dock. It was so impressive because there was 5,000 orders, or not 5,000, but there was thousands of active orders and cartons flowing at high rates all over the place, through 20 pick stations of Perfect Pick systems, or 20 pick stations on 10 aisles of Perfect Pick and high velocity pick zones. And the fact that this carton could go from order to dock in 15 minutes was just really, really impressive. That was a differentiator for us at first. As we matured as an organization, being a 50-year-old company, we had this huge network of our own service technicians in the U.S., around 500 OPEX employed service technicians. All they do is service our equipment. Being able to tell a customer that should you have an issue with your OPEX machine, we will be there. An OPEX certified technician will be there within 2 hours to help you repair that. And that was very different than any other system supplier in North America, to my knowledge at the time, that could offer that. When we approach international markets where we don't have that strength of footprint, we rely on partners to be able to be that extension of OPEX and provide that same type of level of service.
It's good that you mentioned your international business. When did you first cross the ocean to Europe?
Originally, it was before I was with OPEX. We started installing our legacy digital mailroom automation solutions probably in the 80s, maybe even earlier. But certainly by the late 80s, we had equipment in Europe. Personally, my first trip to Europe for OPEX occurred in 2003 at a Post Expo. Again, we didn't launch our warehouse automation solutions until 2012 was our first live site. And that was with Perfect Pick. And we focused on Perfect Pick for a few years. In 2015, we went back and revisited an old mailroom robotic solution we had called Mail Matrix and said, what if we could make this handle bigger products and compete with some sortation technologies in the eaches space? Because one of the things we do that's unique with our sortation solutions is traditionally a sorter occupies a lot of footprint. So if I have a 800 by 600 bin that I'm sorting to, I line those up horizontally along some level and I deliver via cross belt or shoe sorter. And if I needed 500 locations, well, that required a very large footprint. or 1,000 locations or whatever the case was. With the shore sort, the locations were vertically aligned along, very much like a manual put wall would be. So we took basically that manual put wall concept and put a robot behind it to feed those locations. So we had a very, very tight footprint that we thought there's an opportunity here. We had one particular client that was really intrigued with the technology, who I cannot mention. They invested heavily in the technology and started deploying systems all around North America. And then they essentially came to us and said, okay, we have a lot of opportunity in Europe to deploy your systems. So we started doing that probably around 2018, 2019. And now there's maybe 1,000 or more sortation systems in Europe and growing every day. From the goods to person side, which is what brought me to Hungary today, is we have our first goods to person solution being installed outside of North America right here in Budapest.
And as for the European strategy of OPEX, do you have a different strategy for Europe than for the US?
Yes, in many cases, and it's territorial. OPEX has offices in the UK, in Germany, in France, and Switzerland. And we have a very good footprint of our own service network in those territories. But when we venture outside of those areas, we don't staff, from a sales perspective or a service perspective, we don't necessarily staff those additional markets, right? So what we do is we try and be very specific and find good partners that can act as an extension of OPEX in that territory. And again, that understand how business is done in the territory, how the culture would accept certain things. So our partner here in Hungary is Advanced Robotics. And we've talked about, I know Advanced Robotics expands outside of Hungary, and the territory that they cover is also something that OPEX is very interested in partnering with as they go and venture into these countries adjacent to Hungary. Now, if we are in the UK or Germany or France, we treat it much like we do in North America, where we can provide that aftermarket support beyond, for the whole life cycle of the product. So two different flavors of service and support there.
And how do you see, what kind of challenges and opportunities does OPEX face in Europe compared to other regions?
Early on, one of the bigger challenges was that we didn't have the infrastructure in Europe to adequately support the customers with the growth path that we were on. That led us to opening the facility in Duisburg, Germany a few years ago, and we've increased the staff in Europe significantly. And the overwhelming majority of that staff is service staff. It's more important to us as an organization, as OPEX culturally, to take care of your existing customers. It's been said by our ownership group that if you can't take care of your existing customers, you don't deserve to get a new customer. And that's part of our culture, our philosophy. So the service piece, and I think it's transparent to our customers that we are trying to build long-term relationships. What we talked earlier about, what differentiates some of the different suppliers in the marketplace. They're interested in that upfront sale. They want to make a bunch of money and then they go away. It sounds like I've been at OPEX for a long time, 28 years, but there are people that have been at this organization much, much longer than me, a good number of them. We all hold the same philosophy is we want to be here for those customers 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, 25 years down the road. In OPEX's 50-year history, this is a really amazing stat. OPEX has never end-of-life the product. So as long as our customers continue to want OPEX to support that product, we make a commitment that we will support that product. And we have the luxury of being able to do that because we manufacture the overwhelming majority of our systems from scratch.
There is no stop maintaining and supporting the customers, yeah?
Correct.
It's not a Microsoft way. What do you think, what role does Eastern Europe and especially Hungary play in OPEX's overall strategy? A minor role?
I can tell you that spending time here in Hungary and seeing particularly Budapest is a very major city, very busy, spaces at a premium, obviously. From what I understand, the labor availability is near zero or negative. So when you look at the potential for automated solutions, you're giving people the opportunity to continue to conduct business at the level they already are, because if they don't have people to do it, the job still needs to get done. But not only that, how do you allow for growth when you've maxed out, the labor pool is so shallow. So it's very exciting to see the need for automation from the space and human efficiency perspective. As far as the rest of Eastern Europe, we've had great success recently in Poland, and we hope to continue to grow grow that. And I think that our partnership with Advanced Robotics is really one of the most exciting pieces of that potential growth.
As we see, and probably you agree with that, this region is very price sensitive. Are you considering to find ways to optimize your production or processes so that you can go a bit down with the price? For example, with producing or purchasing toasts locally rather than to manufacture them in the US and to deliver them to Europe for a fortune.
It's a great call out. There are many things that we look at when you talk about how can we stay competitive or be more competitive in these territories. And yes, shipping charges are a huge part of it. Adding markup to what would be considered a commoditized component also may be at a disadvantage. So we listen to our partners. We work with our partners. We constantly are trying to find ways to make it easier for our partners and customers to buy and purchase OPEX equipment and use it for their operations. So yet it's not just one or two things. There's a whole bunch of things that we're looking at. We've made some headway. We're making good progress. I think that if you keep your eye on OPEX for the next 12 to 18 months that you'll see.
We will.
Yeah. So I think you'll see we're making great strides into being much more competitive. However, you say price is a big sensitive topic, big factor here in Europe. I assure you it's a big topic everywhere.
You have already mentioned the cooperation between OPEX and Advanced Robotics. One question more wide for clients of OPEX and Advanced Robotics. Is it good that we cooperate?
What I enjoy about this relationship where Advanced Robotics really owns the relationship and bridges the gap between OPEX and our clients and our customer. OPEX is very much right there on the front line along with the partner, trying to provide full support. We, in essence, treat our partner like the customer. In the case of our installation I left today, Advanced Robotics is the customer as much as the customer is the customer. Our alliance is to both. Our allegiance is to both. Again, thinking long term, we want to be there in support of both parties for the life cycle of the product.
Let me have some questions about you, because your story is, at least to me, very interesting. You joined OPEX almost 28 years ago, and you are still there. You started as an assembler, and now you are in the top management, which is a wonderful American dream story. And would you tell me some important milestones in your career with OPEX? How have you developed there?
Yeah, I started at OPEX at 18, so it was my first full-time job, really. And again, I started as an entry-level assembler. And as I developed as a person, OPEX always found a way to move me on to the next opportunity. And there were times in my career where I felt like I should be doing more. I should be advancing further than I am at this point. And when you're young and you're very hungry and you're aggressive and you don't necessarily have wisdom yet, I should say, somewhere along during the course of my career in 2007, we sold off a division of our company, and it was a division that I was working in. I was our industry specialist for our outbound mail sortation division. So very, very technical position. I spent a lot of time with the USPS, the United States Postal Service, with their mailers technical advisory committee, educating them on what technology could do. In reality, from a business perspective, it was a very mature market. The machines that were made lasted 20, 30 years. So there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity for future growth from an OPEX perspective. And we had limited resources with our engineering folks. So the Stevens family, who owns OPEX, took a turn and decided to refocus their engineering efforts towards this robotic technology, that a system called the Mail Matrix in the early 2000s. And most of the people I worked with in my division and that division's technology left the organization. They were offered positions within the organization, or they could, go on to the company that bought us. And a lot of them chose to do that. So at the time, our CEO reached out to me and said, "What do you think about being our inventory control and logistics manager?" And I didn't know what that meant, really. And I had never managed anything or anybody. And he basically said, you've done a good job for us. He was loyal to us. I was loyal to them. He goes, "I want to see how you perform in a management role." And for the next 8 years, I managed our inventory control and logistics group, including our trucking fleet. And I was the second adapter of Perfect Pick. So we launched Perfect Pick for a customer, and we decided that we needed to eat our own cooking, and we were going to put a Perfect Pick system in our facility for our own parts distribution. So I I had to learn how to properly slot a perfect pick system. And then because of that, out of need, when we would go to a trade show, the first year we took our machine perfect pick to a trade show, we were overwhelmed at our booth with traffic. So the following year, when we went back, I was approached by our marketing people and said, you understand perfect pick, you have one. Would you mind taking a week out of the warehouse and come speak to clients about perfect pick? Because you can speak the language, you understand the system. And I said, sure. What I didn't know at the time is that was a sort of a job interview. From the way I believe it occurred, we were looking for an additional sales guy. We had the president of our organization, the sales organization for warehouse automation, and we had our CEO's son, Alex, as a salesperson, but they were looking for additional salespeople. And the president, being an industry guy for 30 years, wanted a 30-year experienced industry guy to come help sell the technology. I believe Dave Stevens was saying, I think I have a guy that will really help you out. You have to try him. And I don't believe he was convinced until he got to interact with me at that first trade show. And before the end of that trade show, I'd been asked to leave my inventory control logistics job and become a salesperson for the warehouse automation group.
Before your first management role, did you get any training?
No, not.
So
no.
They were absolutely sure that you can do it.
I was with the organization for 9 years at that point. And as the industry specialist, I was the subject matter expert on all of our solutions. So I would travel with the sales team and make sure that what they were telling the customers was accurate and something we could deliver. That was the training.
At the end of our conversation, let's speak about the upcoming OPEX's innovations. If you can tell us some secrets.
I really can't share too many secrets. I can tell you that we have a couple core technologies that we just recently launched to the market, SureSort X and Infinity. And Infinity is going to be something that we continue to expand upon. When we came to market a few years ago with Infinity, it had a max weight capacity of 70 pounds. But we've increased the weight capacity, and we continue to chase increasing that weight capacity on Infinity to be able to. We've gotten penetration in the manufacturing space, which requires a little bit more weight. So we'll continue down that path. We have solutions for multiple temperature zones within the system. In the US, it's a big problem where cold storage is becoming very antiquated, very old, very expensive to maintain. So we actually have a solution where we can maintain multiple temperature zones within the aisle structure itself. So you don't have to build that big cooler or that big freezer. We can handle that for you with some of our innovations. On the sortation side, again, we're very excited about SureSort X with the extract component, the ability to take that sorted order and deliver it directly to the shipping container or route a full container, directly to a pack station, really reduces the amount of labor you have to apply to that technology. So I think we'll continue to figure out ways to make our technologies that we have more efficient, capture more of the customer's product and throughput. And there are some other things that are in the pipeline that are really, really exciting, but I just can't speak to them at this point in time.
So you have made us excited about that. So John, thank you so much for being with us today. And I hope that we will have opportunity to speak if you are here the next time in Budapest.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. This was a really a pleasure to meet with you and chat with you. And I'm excited to do it again sometime.
Thanks.